During war, political actors, human rights groups, and the media may use unfamiliar terminology without adequately explaining, or even using it correctly. This is especially true of the Israel-Hamas war and the broader historical context behind it. To this end, Vox is writing a glossary to define and contextualize some of these terms. Drawing on recognized laws of conflict and international humanitarian law, or IHL, we will include terms that apply specifically to Israeli and Palestinian history, as well as terms that apply to the conflict in general. In general, the laws regarding conduct during armed conflict are based on Article 2, which forms the basis of IHL. It is included in the Geneva Conventions, which are post-World War II agreements. Traditional IHL principles, reflected in precedents, from international handbooks on the laws of war or from previous legal cases, fill some gaps in the Geneva Conventions or other treaties. Understanding IHL in context Israeli-Palestinian conflict is often difficult because situation transcends concepts and language set out in law. Laurel Fletcher, co-director of International Human Rights Law Clinic at University Berkeley, told Vox, "This true for many reasons, one of which that the conflict between a nation-state and Hamas, which, although it governs Gaza, technically a non-state actor. What is more difficult this conflict is that Hamas does not abide by the laws of war," Fletcher said, as they reportedly use human shields conceal their operations in civilian infrastructure Gaza, blurring the lines between a legitimate military target and areas that should be protected under IHL. Kidnapping Israeli civilians. Another complicating factor the status of Gaza itself. Whether it is occupied under the terms of international law or whether that occupation de facto, rather than formal. Fletcher explained that he legally interprets what obligations Israel has under IHL to the Palestinians in Gaza. International law has considered this situation, Fletcher told Vox. In some ways Israeli-Palestinian conflict explodes some concepts of IHL. There is not always clear aggressor in a particular round violence, and way IHL understands occupation as temporary status which occupied territory maintains its own laws. For example, does apply to Israeli-Palestinian context. But IHL still governs armed conflict and all parties must adhere to it, even if they do not do so often. With this in mind, we will point out when situation on ground complicates IHL concepts, acknowledging fact that this is a messy, emotional, evolving conflict, and add to that lexicon as war progresses. Job according to international law. An area is considered occupied when it is placed under the authority of an enemy army such that the army has effective control of it. There are three elements to consider when determining term fits. Foreign military was present without consent of local government when it was invaded. Local government could